you touched on something that I've always wondered about. I have a theory that, we now, I guess, are allowed to acknowledge that the NIH was doing gain-of-function research. Fauci denied it, but my understanding is that the NIH has now come out and said, yes, we were doing that. And it's obvious that they were, because Fauci himself was writing articles saying this is really important and the potential downside risk is worth the price. Does this all come out of sort of a big influx of research dollars after 9/11? And because it seems like, and this gets into sort of this scientific arrogance that I'm really worried about, it seems like there's a lot of people being paid a lot of money to imagine all these worst case scenarios, go out and harvest potential viruses from bat caves, maybe manipulate those viruses. We don't know exactly the extent of that, so that there can be a central plan for every possible situation. Is that where it came from? You're part of this community.
That's exactly where it came from. Although I'm not part of the virology community that was part of this, but I learned about this later, actually. So let me tell you a little bit about the history of that. Right. So in 2005, I think, was the avian flu and the scare, and there was a scare that that this virus that was infecting chickens would make the leap to humans and then cause all kinds of damage and harm to chickens, to humans, right? Left from chickens, I think. That led to a research agenda funded in part by the NIH and certainly by large scientific organizations around the world, with people like Dr. Fauci as proponents of a research agenda to see whether there were viruses out there in the world, bat caves and elsewhere, that have the potential to jump into humans. And the research agenda is very simple. What you do is you bring and simple to describe, it's complicated to implement. You bring the virus into a lab. You go hunt them elsewhere. You bring viruses that are out in the wild into the lab, and then you mutate them by running them through civets or whatever, and you check to see how many mutations are needed so that it can infect a human cell in a petri dish or whatever. If it doesn't take that many mutations, well, then this is a virus that might make the leap, would be the inference. And then you can also then start to make vaccines to address the potential threats from viruses that are likely to make the leap, so that if it does spread, you can have a vaccine, some remedy in place. Exactly, science is the scientific kind of approach to future threats. The idea then was actually implemented in 2012. There was a paper published in a big scientific journal where they actually had successfully done this. They found out that a virus in the wild could make the leap with just a few mutations. This set off a firestorm within the virology community. What ended up happening was a big counter push by this group called the Cambridge Working Group that forced the virology community to do a pause on this gain-of-function work. The NIH also adopted this pause on the funding of this gain-of-function work. The counter-argument, and this is what the Cambridge Working Group made, was that, look, it's a really dangerous thing you're doing here. There's a long history of dangerous viruses leaking out of labs, not intentionally. It's just, when you're working in a lab, 365 days a year, it's very easy, even in a high-security lab, to slip up. And a slip-up means that the lab worker gets sick, they go home, and then they spread the virus out inadvertently to other people. That could happen, has happened with dangerous viruses repeatedly going back decades. And so there was a pause put where the idea was that let's evaluate the procedures that labs do. Let's adopt new procedures. Let's try to figure out ways to make this safer. Although I don't think it's possible to make it as safe. It's just not possible to make it safe.
Safe enough.
It's safe. Yeah. I think even one slip could destroy the world, right? So
right.
Why do it? But let's leave that aside. In 2014, then there was this pause of gain-of-function work put on by the NIH, meaning pause of funding. Every study that was doing this sort of gain-of-function work had to be personally approved by Tony Fauci and Francis Collins. because Tony Fauci is the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. They're the ones that are funding a lot of this virological work. So what happened was that they actually did continue to sign off on some of these, and some, including on projects that were cooperating with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where I think it's where this virus may have arisen. So I don't know for sure if it is, but that's the
we still don't know.
Yeah. In any case, the NIH then was funding this work into even during the pause, not the same pace as before. And then in 2017, when Trump came into power, the NIH that had put in place something called a PPP framework, potential pathogens something framework, where they would formalize the approval of these gain-of-function work. And so after 2017, in effect, Tony Fauci tricked Trump into this. I mean, Trump didn't know what he was doing here.
Yeah.
And then we continued to fund it. I mean, this is not controversial. It's just a fact. Although I think Fauci actually denied it in front of
Rand Paul.
Congress,
Yeah.
Rand Paul in Congress, right? So it's something that we should have had a much more public discussion around, because there is some potential for good from it. Like, you have a virus that you think might cause a pandemic. We'll have a vaccine available immediately. That's the potential of it, right? But on the other hand, if in doing that research you greatly increase the risk of the virus spreading, I mean, I think most people would just say no.